1939, a few months before the start of the Second World War, Nazi Germany. After approximately 304,000 Jews emigrated, only about 214,000 of them remain in the country. 6 years of Nazi-sponsored legislation have marginalized and disenfranchised Germany's Jewish citizenry and have expelled Jews from their professions and from commercial life. Only about 16% of the Jewish breadwinners have steady employment of any kind, and the worst is yet to come. After the outbreak of the Second World War, which begins on the 1st of September 1939, Nazi anti-Jewish policy becomes even more radical. The war brings accelerated persecution, deportation, and later mass murder to the Jews of Germany. The responsibility for solving the so-called Jewish question, which is the annihilation of the European Jews, belongs to the SS. One of its members, who as a guard at the Buchenwald concentration camp during the Second World War, will torture and kill its prisoners, is Hubert Krautwurst. Hubert Krautwurst was born on the 21st of February 1924 in the Weimar Republic, which was the name given to the German government between the end of the imperial period in 1918 and the beginning of Nazi Germany in 1933. World War I, which ended on the 11th of November 1918, left Germany a shattered nation. 2 million young men had been killed, and a further 4.2 million had been wounded. In all, 19% of the male population were casualties of the war. The high reparations payments and costs of war had devastating consequences. The cost of living in Germany rose 12 times between 1914 and 1922, compared to 3 times in the United States. When the government sought to pay reparations simply by printing more money, the value of German currency rapidly declined, leading to hyperinflation. In January 1920, the exchange rate was 64.8 marks to $1. In November 1923, it was 4,200 billion to $1. This economic disaster had social consequences as well, and many Germans who considered themselves middle class found themselves destitute. This social and economic upheaval powerfully destabilized Germany's fledgling democracy and gave rise to many radical right-wing parties in Weimar Germany. In addition, many Germans believed that Germany had not lost the war because of military failures, but had been stabbed in the back. The founders of the Weimar Republic, Jews, socialists, liberals, war profiteers, and others on the home front were blamed for undermining the war effort. A combination of political and economic dissatisfaction, some of it dating back to the founding of the Republic, helped to create the conditions for Adolf Hitler's rise to power, and the Weimar Republic, Germany's 12-year experiment with democracy, came to an end after the Nazis came to power in January 1933. From its rise to power, the Nazi regime built a series of incarceration sites to imprison and eliminate real and perceived enemies of the state. Many of these sites were called concentration camps, and their major purpose during the 1930s was to imprison and intimidate the leaders of political, social, and cultural movements that the Nazis perceived to be a threat to the survival of the regime. One such site became Buchenwald concentration camp, which was constructed in 1937. It was located in east-central Germany in a wooded area on the northern slopes of the Ettersberg, a hill about 5 miles northwest of the city of Weimar, which was also known as the birthplace of German constitutional democracy, the Weimar Republic. Most of the early inmates at Buchenwald were political prisoners, people who had been arrested for some form of political opposition to the Nazi regime. In 1938, in the aftermath of the Kristallnacht, which was a series of pogroms against the Jewish population in Germany and recently incorporated territories, German SS and police sent almost 10,000 Jews to Buchenwald. There, camp authorities subjected them to extraordinarily cruel treatment upon arrival. Over 250 of these prisoners died as a result of injuries incurred during their arrest or from their initial mistreatment at the camp. In addition to the political prisoners and Jews, the SS also interned the following groups of people at Buchenwald: repeat offenders, Jehovah's Witnesses, Sinti and Roma people, and German military deserters. During World War II, the Buchenwald main camp administered at least 88 subcamps. In these subcamps, the Nazi regime used prisoners in the Buchenwald camp system as forced laborers. Periodically, the SS physicians conducted selections throughout the Buchenwald camp system and dispatched those too weak or disabled to work to so-called euthanasia facilities, such as Sonnenstein. At these facilities, euthanasia operatives gassed them as part of Operation 14F13, the extension of euthanasia killing operations to ill and exhausted concentration camp prisoners. SS physicians, or orderlies, used phenol injections to kill other prisoners unable to work. In the camp's later stages, the SS also incarcerated prisoners of war from various nations, resistance fighters, prominent former government officials of German-occupied countries, and foreign forced laborers. Starting in late summer 1941 until 1943, a special guard unit named SS Commando 99 shot 8,000 Soviet prisoners of war at an SS stable adjacent to the camp. The SS often shot prisoners in the stables and hanged other prisoners in the crematorium area. Hubert Krautwurst came to Buchenwald on the 17th of January 1942 and was assigned to the 4th Guard Company, during which time he did temporary duty with the gardening detail. One witness testified how he saw Krautwurst kick and beat inmates on several occasions. Another witness testified that in the spring of 1942, while he was working on the gardening detail, Krautwurst gave him a heavy blow on the back with a club because he was not working fast enough. A third witness testified that in May 1942 or 1943, Krautwurst kicked out the eye of a French inmate who died the same day. The same day, Krautwurst killed 2 Polish inmates and 1 Russian inmate by dumping dirt upon them. The witness helped haul the bodies of the 4 victims away. Another witness, who was a doctor in the hospital, testified that at least 5 seriously injured inmates who came to the hospital for treatment said that they had been injured by Krautwurst. The Buchenwald camp, the place of Krautwurst's atrocities, was liberated in April 1945. On the 11th of April, the US 6th Armored Division liberated Buchenwald and found more than 21,000 survivors who were weak and emaciated. During the camp's existence, the SS imprisoned some 250,000 people from all countries of Europe in Buchenwald and murdered at least 56,000 male prisoners. About 11,000 of them were Jews. After the end of the war, Hubert Krautwurst did not escape justice and was arrested. He was then tried together with 30 other defendants at the Buchenwald trial, which began on the 11th of April 1947 in the internment camp of Dachau, where the former Dachau concentration camp had been located until late April 1945. During the trial, several witnesses testified against Krautwurst. One former Buchenwald prisoner recalled how Krautwurst beat inmates with a club. Another witness testified that he had seen Krautwurst push an inmate into a vat filled with manure and stepped on the inmate's hands when he attempted to get out. The inmate was soon dead and was then removed from the vat. Other Buchenwald survivors recall that as a punishment, Krautwurst made inmates on the gardening detail kneel on iron chicken wire with loose bricks under their toes. Often their knees became infected. Krautwurst denied all the accusations. He did confirm that he was on the gardening detail at Buchenwald, but claimed that when inmates violated the camp rules by stealing from each other or running away from the detail, he punished them with slaps in the face, but not hard enough to cause them to need medical attention. He added that if he had reported them, they would have received 25 lashes with a whip as punishment. He also said that he had secured leftover food from the kitchen for the inmates of his detail, and added that the witnesses testified against him out of national hatred and because of mistaken identity. However, his lies did not help him escape justice. On the 14th of August 1947, the US military tribunal found Krautwurst guilty and sentenced him to death by hanging. Several clemency appeals filed by his mothers and others were rejected by the court. Krautwurst was the youngest defendant in the main Buchenwald trial, and when he was hanged on the 26th of November 1948 in the Landsberg war criminal prison, he was only 23 years old. There were no tears shed for Hubert Krautwurst. Thanks for watching the World History Channel. Be sure to like and subscribe, and click the bell notification icon so you don't miss our next episodes. We thank you, and we'll see you next time on the channel.